right that is. And I remember playing for a coach one time and all the rest, and she had told us, wherever y'all go, you represent our team. You represent UAH and the Lady Chargers. I thought, fine, I don't have a problem with that. She was saying, even when we're not playing basketball. Well, but when we went to Tennessee to play a team in Chattanooga, she got upset with the media because they interviewed the assistant coach versus her. And when we got dressed and came out of the locker room, obviously we lost too, but when we came out, she was out there cursing this guy out to no end, the media. And that represented us as far as I'm concerned. Just as she said we represent her in the school, wherever we go, she represented us, her players. So you know what? That bothered me. It bothered me. And that little voice, here I am, young, 20, 21 years old. I made up my mind. And mind you, I was a star point guard. Moved up from my 9th grade year to play with the high school team. 10th grade year, we went to state championship, won championship. My high school friend, Jennifer Gillum, who some of you may have heard of, she was assistant coach for the Olympic team just now. They should be traveling back or have made it back. But she played in Italy and Spain and other places 12 years. She played in the WNBA for Phoenix for a few years as well and won several awards and everything. So we were star people. Ole Miss was grooming she and I to be on their team. She went to Ole Miss. I chose to go to Alabama, UAH. But nevertheless, I want you to know, by me standing up and I went and told that coach that, hey, you're wrong. Took a lot of guts, took a lot of prayer. But I went in and told her, you're wrong. I said, just like you said, we represent you. You are representing us. And I would have never handled that situation like that. And she sat there and looked at me. She said, really? Okay, Val, so what are you saying? So you think and she started speaking for me, you think I owe the team apology? And I said, yeah, I guess, yes, I think you do, because you represented all of us. And she said, okay, you're probably right. I do. I owe the team an apology. You know what, sir? When I showed up at practice the next day, it's like she must have thought about it, and I'm going to get you. She took me off the starting lineup and ran me the whole practice. No matter what I didn't do it right. Val started running suicides. And I would have to run suicide, run laps around the gym. You know what? Everybody else was quitting. Val, why are you taking that? You don't deserve that. My brother and his girlfriend, I think maybe wife, drove way from Orlando, Florida to see me play, and I'm on the bench. The only time I got to touch the ball was when we were warming up. Sat on the bench the whole time. I sat on the bench at the very end of the bench, somewhere toward the end, and tears just running down my face. I was so, humiliated, and knowing I could be out there. We were losing. She didn't care. She wanted to prove a point to me that who do you think you are to come in here and tell me that I shouldn't have cursed the media out last night? But you know what? I knew I was right. That if you're saying you represent us, then, that we represent you, then you also represent us. It worked both ways. And I refused to quit. Even though everybody else quit, we had a great team, but everybody, all these star players quit and said, girl, you're crazy. I wouldn't take that. There was fortitude in me that you're not going to make me leave. You know what? At the end of the year, she came and apologized to me and told me she admired me and all the rest after having treated me this way, and they got rid of her. And I got to play another season. I said it yesterday. I'm so passionate about doing the right thing that I'm willing to stand, and you have to be willing to stand, even if you have to stand alone. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, do not travel where the path may lead. Instead, travel where there is no path and leave a trail. Too many of us want to go where the path is easy. We want to flow down the river where the current is just flowing smoothly. It takes courage. It takes power. It takes someone like you to encourage us to say, no, stay the course. Stay the course. Go against the current if you have to, if you're right. So I got started. See, sir, you shouldn't have done that. I feel like going on there. So I'll say, preacher, I want y'all to leave. How to face fear. Do y'all notice that that's in quotation mark, how to face fear? I used to say how to overcome fear. Can someone guess what my number one, not the people that have heard me before on Monday, but what do you think my number one fear has always been and still is? Public speaking. And you can believe that it once was, and many of you don't believe that it is now, but it really is. But I get energy and I get motivated when I stand up here. I tell the story that when I heard Les Brown back in the 80s, and I walked through the house listening to him, I don't know what he was talking about, but I just heard him talking, and something inside of me connected with him. And I said, I want to do that one day. I want to be able to say one word to help people move from where they are to where they need to be. But I said, I'll never be able to do that. You know why? Because I'm too shy. I'm too timid. I care about what everybody thinks. But something inside of me has not allowed me to get away from this. I've always wanted to major in psychology. And it's amazing I end up engineer because I was good in math. And my brother said, Val, that's where the money is going to be in the future. I think you ought to major in engineer. And I said, okay. And I majored in engineering. But am I totally fulfilled or happy? No, I'm not. My real passion is doing this right here. My real passion is writing books and for people to say, I purchased a book. Just like a lady came that was in a previous class, and I'm not trying to sell books, but she came before the class started and said, I need to get one of those other books. I purchased Rise Above Rejection. I couldn't put it down. And I said, really, that's what blesses me, not the engineering job. You can't pay me enough money to do what I'm doing now. And Big is not paying us, by the way. You can't pay me enough money. That's why I showed up here, on my own, because you can't pay me enough when people come to me and tell me that they're depressed, or you touched on something that I'm dealing with right now. And I've stayed after class, several sessions, not just this time, but previously, and talk with people. People say counseling, but talking with people and praying with people, because I love this. So I realize when I say how to face fear, I'm simply facing my fears. I told you I've spoken at Department of Treasury, Library of Congress, and every time I show up, I'm just shaking. I'm shaking. When I showed up at the Ronald Reagan building to speak to over 500 people at their 19th and their 21st Financial Management Conference, they invited me back twice, and invited me there twice, and I was there shaking. And the lady that with my PLC, she was like, Valerie, it's okay. You all right? I said, no, I'm not. I'm thinking, why did I volunteer for this? And when I made it to the front of the room, and I'm thinking just, she made me think it would be 200 people, 300. I had to look way down on this end and way back on that end just to stay connected to the audience. But when I got up there, I was praying to to God and silently, and I thought, what can I say? And I asked them. They were talking about financial stuff, and they wanted to hear "Do It Afraid" at lunchtime while they ate. And I said, how many of you have fears in your life? I don't care what type of fear it is. You're afraid of heights. You're afraid of dying. You're afraid of whatever the fear is. How many of you have fear? Every last hand went up, and that was my connection.